Hey everyone, it's me, Megs, and let's get into this makeup. Y'all asked me for an updated foundation routine and my go-to makeup look because you've seen this look in a lot of my most recent videos. So I'm here to share with y'all all the colors, all the things that I use, okay? And you know, we're in our 30s now and skincare is really important, so I always make sure that my face is super moisturized, okay? And I'm also just, clean up the brows. So this routine, this video is from start to finish, everything in the exact order that I, do my face in, okay? So I always prime, I use a generous amount, okay, of this Milk Hydro Grip. And me being in my 30s, I am aging. I know some of y'all like, she's not aging. Yes, I am. I have a lot of fine lines. And so this Hydro Grip works so well, okay, for me, especially underneath the eyes and around the mouth area. I do have some fine lines around the mouth. And I think a lot of this is because I got my teeth fixed and my bite is different. So everything is pushed in. So I have some lines now, okay? So I like doing this hack of using eyeshadow primer in my fine lines underneath my eyes and around that mouth. When I tell you it works for these smile lines, it works. Especially when I'm going to events or I know I'm going to be taking a lot of pictures or if I'm going to be filming, this really works. So whoever came up with this hack, thank you. Because I've been seeing the girls all on the TikTok doing this. So I let it dry down just a little bit and blend it in before I do the foundation. So now it's time to do the foundation. I like using this NARS foundation. And I use about a dime size, but I really don't even use this much. I like to allow it to warm up like I always do. And I start out with the bottom half of my face because that's kind of like where I want the most coverage for myself. And I just use kind of like this flat top foundation brush. This is the same brush I've been using for years, and just put a little bit on my forehead and blend it out. And that's why my skincare has really improved with how my makeup wears too. So really making sure that my skin is thoroughly moisturized now because I'm running dry now that I'm in my 30s. My skin gets dry. So before makeup wear, just get your skincare on, okay? And so I love this NARS foundation and how it blends out effortlessly. And you see me put that foundation on my hand, but I didn't even use all of that. So this is a very thin layer. So then I like to go in with the beauty blender that's wet and I spray it with the Urban Decay All Nighter spray and I just buff everything in. And I feel like this extra step for me personally just makes it look even more natural and more flawless. And I kept that eye area open. I did not apply foundation there because I don't want a whole bunch of product underneath there, being that I do have lines and things like that. I don't want to cake that up. So applying this concealer by Fenty and then letting it dry down allows me to get the most coverage because me being a little bit older now, my under eye is really dark now. So I need that concealer. Okay, and it works. So my color is 420. And I allow that to dry down just a little bit before I go in to blend it because before, back in the day, I wouldn't even let it dry down and I would not get the most coverage that I could get. And it just didn't look good. It didn't look smooth. And so this is really working well for me. And I move my nose over just to get into any fine lines. And allowing that concealer to dry really helps with get that flawless, even look that I love. So it's time to highlight. And I love this NARS highlighter. Now I'll tell you, this highlight is bright. This is not everybody's cup of tea. I understand, I know, but I personally like this. This is not something that I do all the time, but when I want to be super beat down, I use this NARS concealer, and the name of this will be down in the description. So I kind of put the concealer in the shape that I want to blend it out. I don't place it and then move it out. And this is very pigmented. It looks like I put a lot of concealer, but I really didn't. It's a very thin layer. And so I wait for that to dry down too before I go in and start blending with a beauty blender. So I also put a very thin line down my nose because I do contour and highlight a little bit differently now. So applying this thin strip down my nose and then blend it out the edges first gets me the look that I'm going for. And so since we let that concealer dry down, I actually go in with blending out the very edges first because I want to keep the most coverage right in that inner area. You know what I mean? And so making sure that I stretch my nose out. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. I'm not a professional, but it works for me. Just helps me get into those lines right there. And that is on nice and smooth. It took me a while to learn this. y'all, but I do want a little more brightness and coverage right in the inner area. And I've decided to highlight my chin. I normally don't do this all the time. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling in the look that I'm going for. And when I want to be super beat, I usually do highlight my chin. And so I let that concealer dry down a little bit and then go to blend out because I did want more coverage and more of a pop on that inner eye area. So I am going to go in and also set with the Laura Mercier translucent powder because I don't want to add color to this because it is a bright highlight. And you know, I'm really inspired by the UK Girlies bright highlight. So this is not everybody's cup of tea. I know that for sure. And this isn't something that I wear all the time. Just letting you guys know that too. So now onto the brows. This is the exact order I always do everything. I use that translucent powder on my brows because back in the day, my brows used to get greasy. So I learned that putting the translucent powder first and then going in with the Anastasia brow pencil in the color Ebony, it really gives me the flawless, long-lasting brow that I like. And I love this brow pen down. I've been using this for probably almost 10 years. I used to use the color chocolate, but I learned as I got older, I like Ebony a little more because chocolate was more of a brown look and my hair is really dark. So the Ebony really gets me the look that I like. And then I'm going back in once I have put the pencil on with the powder again, just a very light layer, not a lot. And then just brush everything out just to make sure, like, is this the shape that I like? And I really wish my natural brows was like this. I wouldn't mind getting, you know, what is that called? Microblading to get them a little more full, but this is fine too. So then I'm going to go in with the Anastasia Brow Duo Powder in the color Ebony too. And I'm just going to pop this on top just to give it a little bit more of a pigmented look. This is totally optional. Again, I don't do this all the time. I have many different makeup routines, y'all. And this is the most beat out of all of them. So let me know if you want to see my other routines where it's, you know, less, you know, makeup, less of a dramatic look. I don't know if I would say this is dramatic, but this is definitely IG beat down. You get me? I do have other routines that I do, like my work routine, my everyday routine, all of that. So I put that on, blend it out, and I'm going to go in with the concealer. Okay, this is my concealer I've been using for years. If you've been a long watcher of my channel, you know how much I love MAC products. And this is MAC Studio Finish Concealer in NC45. So I always carve out my tails because I kind of do like my brows to be like twins. They borderline look like twins. You know how back in the day, in the early YouTube days, people were like, your brows are supposed to be cousins. I kind of want them to look a little identical. I don't know. It's just me. So I like my brows like this, kind of thick, kind of not thick. And then I'm going in and blending out that concealer because that definitely matters. It also offers me a brow highlight. You know what I mean? And so to carve out the very top, I am going to use my foundation color because, you know, this isn't 2011 where we're using a bright concealer on the very top and it gives you that castly look. You kind of want it to blend out and just be natural and not have any kind of like scary things on top of your brows. But I am going to go in and highlight my forehead. I have been doing this for the past, 2 years. I used to didn't highlight my forehead, but I personally love how this looks. It's so pretty. Like I do this routine when I'm going out, you know, for dinner and I'm taking pictures and doing content. Like it looks so pretty in video and pictures. So I like this highlight. I typically don't do bright highlights all the time, but I feel like this kind of blends in really nicely. So I really love using this puff to blend everything out. And I am going to go in with my Laura Mercier, and I think this is Deep Dark around the highlighted area. So to set my highlight, I use the translucent, and then I'm going to go in with the Deep Dark around those highlighted areas because I want to put that color back and I want to set my makeup. And then I'm going to go in with a fluffier brush and just kind of blend everything out where I may see any harsh lines. And this just helps kind of diffuse everything, creates like a really pretty gradient. And so I love Laura Mercier. It kind of provides me this kind of like satin-like look. But I have been exploring other makeup, y'all. I do have some new makeup that I've been trying out. I've been loving the one size loose powders. Those are really good too. So I'll be showing you guys my routine with that too. And this here is it's time to contour. And I've been using the Black Radiance contour palette for years too. If you've been consistently watching, my channel here in makeup videos, you know this powder. I haven't changed up. And I like using powders to chisel out my face. I don't do creams and all of that anymore because I just kind of found for me that step to be a little unnecessary. So I just go straight in with the powder. And when it comes to my nose, I contour my nose a lot differently now. And I think that's where the nose job allegations keep coming from, girl. So I just use light tapping motions and I contour more so on top of my nose than like the sides to create that chiseled look. And I really blend out the sides because I don't want that harsh line, but I do want it to look contoured. So then I go back in with this puff, and these are linked in my Amazon storefront. I love these puffs down because it really helps with blending too. So I blend out those harsh lines and boom, I have the look that I'm going for. And then it's time to brighten up just a little bit. I am going to use this NC40 Studio Fix powder. I was using the Charlotte Tilbury brightening powder, but I broke it. I broke it. And this powder is actually MAC's old generation of this powder since they reformulated this powder. So I don't know if I'm going to like the new one. So I'm due to go to MAC soon. So I'll do a comparison video. So I'm going to apply this lighter powder to my highlighted areas just as a little bit of a pop. I know it looks crazy right now. It looks strange, but bear with me. Trust the process. And then again, I'm just going to go in and tap and blend everything out just to make sure there aren't too many harsh lines like that. And now it's time to melt all this together because we did layer a lot of powders. So I'm going in with the Urban Decay Matte setting spray first and let that dry down. And then I go in with the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. I feel like double setting with these two different setting sprays does wonders. It melts everything together where it starts to look more, natural looking. So now it's time to bronze. So I'm using Fenty and I'm using this Lancome bronzer because I like mixing these two because it gives me a more warm look. I used to use just Fenty by itself, but I didn't feel like it was warm enough for me. I wanted more of a warm, kind of like sun-kissed look. So I go around the perimeter of my forehead, around my cheek area to blend that highlight, and I go around my chin also to put that color back. And I also go over my cheek contour and my nose contour, really focusing in around where that brow is. You see how I kind of have that shadow there, and then I blend everything out with my nose. So it just warms everything up. And y'all, I'm really inspired by 90s makeup, like Janet Jackson's If era, where she was heavily bronzed with a bright highlight like this. So I'm going in for blush now. I'm using this MAC orange blush. In person, it's a bright orange. And then the NARS Exhibit A blush. And I mix those two together and really pop that blush on a little heavy. It looks scary now, but in the long run, it looks really, really good because I don't reapply any of my makeup after this is done. So this is long wearing. And I really like this warm blush look. And when I tell y'all, I've been doing makeup for myself for quite some time. And I've learned so many, new things. But I tell you, blush is the hardest thing for me to apply. I don't know why. So I also take that blush in other areas of my face, just kind of like as a, a bridging color, I guess, And I'm going back in with a little bit more of that highlight powder to just blend out the blush and bring everything together and just make sure everything's nice and blended. Like that, like so. And I like this look. I love a warm orange reddish blush. And again, I'm going to chisel out my cheeks with no more product on this puff. I love these puffs so much because it's like they blend, clean everything up. They're nice and soft, don't disturb the makeup. Like that. So now it's time for eyeshadow. I'm using, of course, the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. I've been using this probably almost going on 20 years now. This is the very first eyeshadow primer I've ever used, and I haven't used anything else. And you guys have been asking me about the eyeshadow combo that I've been using, and this is MAC's Saddle that I place on my lid with a jumbo eyeshadow brush. It's the easiest eyeshadow look that I've been doing for years now, and it just makes it look like I'm doing a lot more than what I'm doing. especially when I don't have a lot of time. So I place that all over the lid, and then I'm going back in with the blush color that we used to pop that in the crease. So it kind of creates a cohesive, warm look, because sometimes that could be tricky. I know when I first started doing my own makeup, I didn't get this at first until I start watching other makeup artists online, and I'm like, they're using the same products everywhere on the face. So say if you're a beginner, you don't need a whole bunch of different products. You can really use many different things in different areas. Like I use that blush color in the crease, and then I'm going in with my brow highlight with the highlight powder, which is that MAC powder, and I'm putting that underneath the brow to also blend out everything too, to create kind of like a soft wash look with my eyeshadow. Because I love matte shadows. I just feel like they're much easier to use in my opinion. And I just don't like to be sparkly on my day-to-day. You know, I have special occasions where I like to be sparkly. You know what I mean? I love a matte eyeshadow. So to bring everything together, and this is like the game changer, is I'm using the Fenty Invisimatte powder all over my face. I know this is a blotting powder, but I like putting this all over because it has a beautiful blurring effect. And it's just really, really pretty. And when I tell you this is like one of the last steps of the powder applications, because I do layer my powders, this lasts for hours, to the point where I'm not having to worry about my face. I'm not having to touch up in the mirror. You know what I mean? And so I apply that on my brows too. And then just, you know, brush out any kind of like powdery, you know, collected powder on the brows. And I'm just touching up my brows, sharpening everything up, things like that. So making sure that I get that tail together so it's nice and natural, and boom, we're there. And now this is my favorite part. I'm using the One Size On Till Dawn. If I'm correct, this is the waterproof setting spray or fixing spray. I learned the difference between setting sprays and fixing sprays like this. This really makes your makeup last for hours, okay? And then I go in with the, you know, Anastasia Beverly Hills brow gel, because I didn't do this at first. I used to use the brow gel and then go in with the On Till Dawn, and it was creating like a cast on my brows. So I do that after now. And I do my liner after the setting spray now, because I remember when I first started using this One Size spray, my eyes would get really irritated when I would have the liner on. So I learned that I need to do the fixing spray first and then liner, and now my eyes don't water, they don't ruin my makeup. So, you know, I am very loyal to a, you know, wing liner. Okay, so I just do a little thin little wing liner. I just feel like my makeup isn't complete without a wing liner. I remember I came on camera here with you guys and I didn't have on a wing liner or lashes, and y'all thought I looked so strange. I'm like, y'all so used to seeing me with a wing liner. And normally I kind of stop there without adding lashes. And I am going to add some lashes. These are from Amazon, but these are not the lashes that I wanted to wear. These are my nighttime lashes, because these are kind of big. But they still work. It's still cute. But I like to use a smaller lash now. But these work really well when I know I'm going to be doing content out and about at nighttime and I'm taking pictures, because you can see the lash. So this is, you know, definitely optional, okay? You can choose a smaller lash. And of course, line my lips with Chestnut Lip Liner by MAC. I love this. And this is my favorite nude lipstick by MAC. It's called Peach Stock. They better not get rid of this. Because it's like the perfect nude. I love this down so much. And then I'm going to warm this up, because to keep the vibe of the makeup going, everything's warm. I'm going to add this orange concealer on top. And it creates a totally different look. It's warmer. And I can keep it matte here, but I like to put a little gloss on top. So, of course, I'm just going to redefine the areas that I may have lost, because I do like that gradient look when it comes to my lips with the MAC Chestnut, and just blend everything out so it won't be too harsh. Ugh, it's so pretty. Of course, you got to use the lip gloss. I love this sticky lip gloss. It just really lasts for long hours. I'm not having to reapply. It just looks so good. It looks so beautiful. And then I'm going to put my moles back. Yes, I do have natural moles. These are my moles I've been having since I was 3 years old. I remember when I first discovered these moles, I was like, it's ants on my face. But y'all, this is my look. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this look, please let me know. All information about what I use is in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.